Hey, what's up, gamers and all the ships at sea? I'm AE, and I like to play E. Today on my YouTube channel, I'm being joined by my very nice office cat, Tommy, who has heard me doing my sound check and decided to come play with Daphne. I'm going to give her a little treat for being so polite and how she tapped me on the shoulder to let me know she's here. And we'll see if maybe she wants to be more of a part of the show as we go on. Here you go, Tommy. So today on my YouTube channel here, I am playing Space Junk Cyberpunk, a one-page RPG by Oliver Darkshire. I've been playing a lot of Oliver's games and playing around with the format he created for them as an exercise in both storytelling and game design, and I thought it might be fun to capture some of my sessions for you. So I've got a copy of the game sheet over here. I've got the Google Dice Roller open so I can simulate dice rolls. I've got a markable layer on my file here where I can put little star stamps to do record keeping as I go. And as I do more of these, I'll dig more into the format, what makes it work and what I like about it, and how I'm using it in my own work. But today I'm going to be focusing mostly on gameplay and the story. I've chosen Space Junk Cyberpunk as the subject for my first solo RPG video, because it is one of the more easily winnable of the games in the Darkshire milieu. Although, being cyberpunk, it is not necessarily optimistic. Tommy has elected to steal my keyboard and my mouse. I thought I would be... When she first started making it known that she would like to be part of these videos, I thought I would encourage her and reward her instincts for politeness. And it is a mixed success, I'm going to say. So, where was I? I was saying that this is one of the more easily winnable games in the Darkshire milieu. Although being cyberpunk is not necessarily optimistic in its view of winning. I'll have a link in the description of this video to Oliver Darkshire's Patreon. You may have seen these one-page RPGs of his, or ones that were heavily inspired by the format he created, circulating on Twitter. He eventually has now collected them on Patreon so that people who wish to support his endeavors have a means of doing so, and also it makes it easy to find them all in one place. I actually have, in this same file where I'm going to be playing Space Junk Cyberpunk today, I have a collection of them on different layers so that I can play them on my computer without having to print out a sheet each time. And it's been a lot of fun, and that's why I decided to put it on here, where I can share it with you. So, let's just read through this. You are a lonely exploratory robot sent by rocket to a faraway planet. Each year you sing happy birthday to yourself and gaze up into the stars. We have a rules section. You have 3 scores: breakdown, loneliness, and rescue, all of which start at 0, and they all go up to 10. That's very typical of the Darkshire format, that 2 of these, breakdown and loneliness, are lose conditions, and rescue is a win condition. 2 ways to lose, 1 way to win. Months pass by. To start the game, generate a new event by rolling a 6-sided die. Adjust your scores as directed by the table or subtable, then roll a new event. Keep rolling new events until one of the following occurs. If your breakdown score reaches 10, you stop operating and are abandoned on your lonely planet. You are buried in dust. If your loneliness score reaches 10, then there's nothing physically wrong with your systems, but you stop functioning anyway. If you were a person and not a robot, they would say you died of a broken heart. If your rescue score reaches 10, then you finally receive radio contact from your home planet. Your creators congratulate you for your hard work and tell you that it is time for you to go to sleep. The samples you have collected will be useful in the extraction of resources from this planet. Again, it's a very cyberpunk idea of a happy ending. Special mechanic. Most Darkshire games have a sort of release valve or safety mechanic in the bottom left corner, a way of mitigating one of your losses. This one is called Happy Birthday to Me. After the resolution of every third roll, you can say or sing Happy Birthday to Me in your best impression of a sad robot. If you do, you can remove one loneliness. So loneliness and breakdown are both equally dangerous in that getting to 10 in either of them ends the game in a loss, but loneliness is manageable in a way that breakdown isn't. There are other reasons that breakdown is more dangerous than loneliness. As the game progresses, we will probably find out. The game is played by rolling a d6, which has 3 equally weighted outcomes: keeping busy, which is a subtable, machine dreams, which is a subtable, and if you get a 5 or 6, there's no further risk, nothing to roll. You send a report into the stars in the direction of home, gain 1 rescue. Many of Oliver Darkshire's games have 3 separate tables, some of which are sometimes each one is weighted heavily towards a particular track, and other times it's more luck of the draw. The fact that this one just has an unmitigated good one is one of the things that makes it one of the more winnable ones. So, in my practice of playing this game by myself, I found it useful to, after each roll, put a little stamp down here so I know how many months have passed and when it is my birthday. And then I put a dot up here after that so I know how many years I have spent on the Lonely Planet as the Lonely Robot. I'm going to be rolling 2d6 for each month, with the first one, the one that's to the left of the tray, being this roll, and then if it's keeping busy or machine dreams, the second die will be the subtable, and if it's 5 or 6, then the second die is superfluous. That just saves time, so I'm going to roll, immediately stamp so I don't forget. We got a 2 and a 4. 2 is keeping busy. 4, you get stuck in a rock slide and are forced to try and free yourself, +1 breakdown. This is not a great start to my career as a lonely exploratory robot. I'm going to imagine that this happened in touchdown. We missed the target site, which would have been a broad, flat plain, possibly in the middle of a wide impact crater, and instead impacted on the crater's slope, triggering a rockfall. So, not an auspicious beginning. That was the first season of the year. We're going to roll again. Oh, but we have recovered from our sort of embarrassing first days and made a report by radio back to the home planet. We are 1 step closer to rescue. Let's see what happens at the end of the year. We are trucking right along. We haven't actually done much on this planet, but we've got a lot to say about it. I guess if our creators did not want to hear from us this much, they shouldn't have programmed us to be so dang chatty. It is the end of the year. I am not at all lonely. Make my year stamp before I forget. There we go. Punch the thing that was end of year 1. I am going to say happy birthday to me in a happy robot voice because I am optimistic right now. Let's see, I've practiced my sad robot voice. What does the happy robot voice sound like? Happy birthday to me. Don't know if I love that, but it works. Alright, so now we're starting year 2. Machine dreams. Long days and long nights. I forgot to stamp my month. Nothing but silence. No change. 2. Keeping busy, you get dust in your motors. They sputter and grind. An interesting thing, I've played this game through multiple times and I'm just now noticing keeping busy, there's not really any description of any work that is actually being done, so it's very interesting. Only things that go wrong get recorded by the game. We can assume the robot is collecting samples because that gets mentioned in the story. And, but Yeah, just something I never noticed before. All right. End of year roll. And we are ending year 2 the way year 1 began, with a rock slide. That's the end of the second year. Hey, Tommy. You want to say hi? Lean into the frame. Oh, my very nice office cat has returned. Have anything to say to the people? So, the robot has no loneliness to dispel, but it is ending the year trapped in a rock slide. So I'm going to imagine it is a bit sad about its predicament. She has realized its work is a little bit hollow, and it is taking damage faster than it is accumulating reports back home. Happy birthday to me. And year 3 begins with more dust in my motors. My brain spontaneously spat out the first line of the song about hauling 16 tons and what do you get? And I don't have a suitable parody line to fit the situation to follow it up. So, but yeah, we're another day older and our motors are a little bit more worn down. Second month, hey Tommy. She's tapping me again. She wants some pets, I guess. Month 2, Machine Dreams. You think of home. What did it look like? At a metagame level, I'm glad to get some loneliness instead of more breakdown because we can get rid of that loneliness so easily. But thinking about it, the robot, if it was active on its home planet, it would have been in a mixture of indoor environments, labs, factory floors, workshops, things like that, where it was being worked on, and possibly simulated environments designed to emulate the expected conditions of this planet. So I think it thinks of home as being a place of straight lines and right angles and corners and sharp edges and artifice, where anything that is resembling the natural world it's exploring now looks artificial, and anything that is not a simulation is clearly artificial. So I think it thinks of home as a place of artifice, controlled and managed and created and curated, compared to this desolate, windswept, icy dust ball. And yeah, that does make it feel a little bit lonely when it realizes what it longs to see is something artificial like itself. And then we're going to roll for the end of the year. Machine Dreams. You try and patch yourself up. It takes time. You may add 1 loneliness to remove 1 breakdown. I always read "you may" instructions as being an offer that can be declined. It's a choice, but it is a good choice. I have so much breakdown, so little loneliness, and I can do so little about the breakdown compared to the loneliness. So I'm adding a point of loneliness. I've removed a point of breakdown. It is the end of the year. We'll wipe this off. And as the robot patches themselves up, they sing "Happy Birthday to Me." And they feel a little bit less lonely. Felt good to repair themselves. I think the robot connects the act of repair with the distant creators who sent them here, because it is the sort of work that they did. And so it feels closer to home. It feels a bit like a spiritual return when they are patching themselves up. So now we're going to begin year 4 on the Lonely Planet. A roll and a stamp. And a report back home. Gain +1 rescue. I am now as close to winning as I am to losing on my worst of the 2 loss axes. Middle of the year. Machine Dreams. There's a sputter on the radio. You eagerly strain your receptors, listening for more. Could it have been a reply to my last report? Or maybe it's just cosmic radiation, the emanations of a pulsar. It's hard to say, but the robot is capable of experiencing hope. And so it's gonna go into the end of the year optimistically, and that optimism manifests itself as another report back home. It's a good year. And the robot looks up at the stars and sings its slightly sad, slightly bittersweet song, Happy Birthday to Me, and beeps. An indescribable beep. A little forlorn, a little wistful, but optimistic. As year 4 ends and a new year begins. With robot dreams and more thoughts of home, so close to contact, getting that maybe an answer, and then sending another report. It felt like conversation, like telemetry being exchanged, and the robot remembers that while it was in the lab, everything that they broadcast, every report they generated, seemed to elicit immediate feedback and response from the creators. That's what closeness and society and community means to the robot, that their actions matter and are being noticed, even if they have no context for what those reactions mean. I'm going to go into the middle of the year, sending another report back, thinking about home, thinking about conversation, longing for that sense of communication, of being noticed, of having their work matter. We go into the end of the year, keeping busy, look up at the sky, look for home in the stars. The robot does not have a lot of information about their home world and their databanks. It is not relevant to the robot's mission to know that they came from a planet orbiting a star in the same way that they are on a planet orbiting a star. But they have surmised this from the available telemetry from the transport vehicle, the interstellar rocket ship that brought them here. And so they trying to determine, looking at the stars, they are only programmed to observe for navigational purposes, trying to determine if there's something about one that is more homey than the other, something that is more home-like. They settle on the brightest star in the sky. They don't know if that makes sense or not, but they have no context, no parameters, no indication, no reason to choose one star over another, realizing that they are essentially guessing. Gives them a little bit of a cold, uncertain feeling, and that is the accumulated loneliness. And so as another year ends on our lonely, faraway planet, they look up at that star and they sing, Happy Birthday to Me, and banish that last little bit of loneliness like they're deleting a corrupted file. Year 5 has ended. They are much closer to completing their mission than they are to breaking down. If the robot was not capable of feeling optimism before, it would have devised a protocol for it now. They have so much hope. Things are looking up. The robot is looking up. A new year begins. With a storm of rock and sand buffeting the robot, there is no shelter in this place. The world they came from, as far as they know, is entirely indoors. There are no indoors here. This is not their home. This is not their birthplace. It will not shelter or protect them. The physical damage is so much more dangerous. But the emotional damage, the internal knowledge, that's hard to shake. The end of the year feels so far away right now. As we go into the middle of the year, they feel a responsibility to try to do what their creators did when they suffered damage in the tests back home. They repair the damage. They were sent to a planet with no shelter and a planet with storms. Therefore, it is their responsibility to deal with the damage. They do it. They try to feel a closeness to their creators in emulating the work, the repair work. But that only reminds them how very far away their creators and their home is. They think about a few years back when they heard that burst of static on the radio. At the time they thought it might be their creators, but now they wonder if it might not have been unrelated, or worse, an electromagnetic disturbance heralding the destruction of their homeworld and their creators. Maybe there are no creators. Maybe they're the only aware thing in this entire lonely universe, surveying a dusty rock which offers no solace, no protection. And another year ends with a rock slide. Seems like life is nothing but endless rock slides, sad songs, and the occasional report home. Happy birthday to me. The end of year 6. A new year begins. One of your arms stops working after you pick up something heavy. After both your arms break, reroll on this table in the future. So we gain +2 breakdown, and I've put a mark here to show that one arm is broken. This is part of why breakdown is so dangerous. Twice in each playthrough, it can spike 2 points all at once. Something that rescue and loneliness have no chance of doing. So, we are now as broken as we are rescued. And isn't that a statement? I did not stamp that first month. I'm going to do that now. Going into the middle of the year with one arm. Stamp the month. And we send a report back home. It's about the arm. It doesn't seem terribly likely to us that our creators will be able to send another arm, but they were able to send 2 arms and an entire robot between those 2 arms. So sending one arm seems like it would be easy for them. Maybe they'll do it. Or maybe they'll send us instructions on how to repair the arm. We live in hope as another year ends. We keep busy. But we can't help stopping in our work to stare up at the sky, looking at that bright star, hoping we'll see another bright spot, a glint, an approaching rocket bringing us our arm, and proof that our creators live and that they love us. Happy birthday to me. I'm making myself genuinely sad here. I saw the storytelling. I thought the storytelling aspect would get some short thrift as I'm doing this for video and marking things on the computer. But I'm getting... I have a very low emotional affect, but there are actual tears in my eyes right now. I am at the emotional state that if you ever see me on Twitter saying that I'm openly sobbing about something, this is what I look like and sound like when that's happening. Take a moment, start the new year. Stampy stamp. The new year begins not with a bang, but with a grinding noise and a whir and a worrying smell of ozone that the robot has no way of detecting. Another point of breakdown. It's neck and neck, whether we complete our mission or fall to pieces. I fear that there's a slightly greater chance of getting 3 more points of breakdown. I have not stopped and done a mathematical analysis, but I think breakdown might be weighted a little bit heavier than rescue. At least as long as there's another broken arm in play. Middle of the year. Keeping busy. Oh, what did I just say? Well, here is the good news. The bad news is we are as close to broken as we can be and still function. The good news is that we're still functioning and we have run out of arms to break. We cannot break any more arms. We have overcome the problem of breaking arms. And there might be a replacement coming. We don't know. End of the year. We send another report home, updating our creators. We thought long and hard about this, whether we wanted to tell them losing one arm might happen to any robot. To lose both arms seems careless. But they gave us arms. They clearly think the arms are important. They want us to have arms. They think we need arms. Therefore, they need to know. So we update them. We are now down 2 out of 2 arms. If there's already one on the way, that's fine. We can get by with one arm. We did that for a few years. But if they haven't got around to shooting the rocket that has the arm in it, if they could add enough fuel to get a second arm in there, that would be great. We'd really appreciate it. That is the end of year 8. We sing happy birthday to me, thinking about what a great present it would be to get a rocket from home with one or more arms in it. The last of our loneliness falls away. There's no room for psychological turmoil. We are one wrong move away from shutting down forever, our mission unfinished, never hearing from home and home never hearing from us. They won't know what happened to us. One bad move. In fact, as optimistic as I was about having lost my second arm, at this point it makes no difference. +2 breakdown, +1 breakdown, one bad roll, and it's over. And we need 2 good rolls to win. Let's see what happens at the start of the new year. I can't even look at the dice till they finish. Oh. We send a report home. We tell them, because we're worried now, that mentioning the second arm, they might have been right on the verge of putting an arm on a rocket and sending it when we sent the update. And now maybe we've screwed up the launch window. Maybe they don't think that we're worth the resources. We shouldn't have made a fuss. We tell them they don't need to worry about the second arm. We can do it with one arm. We've been collecting samples with just the little sample collecting, Waldo. If we can do this. We don't need if they don't want to send an arm, we'll manage, but it just any arm or even a hand, just a hand, anything. It's fine. It's all fine. We're fine. We're going into the middle of the year and we're fine. We're not fine. We can't stop looking at the sky. We know, in the heart of our programming, that the rocket isn't coming, that nobody's bringing us an arm, that it's just us on this planet, but we can't help looking. And the year ends. The year ends. We try and patch ourselves up. It takes time because we don't have any arms. But we do what we can because we must. We erase a little bit of the damage. We know that we are nowhere near the condition our creators put us in very carefully before they sent us here. And we feel we can't identify it as such, but it is shame. We feel shame, knowing how close we are to failing in our mission, and how much we have fallen short of our creators. Their concept of perfection for us is not realized in us and all, and it is sadder than ever that we sing happy birthday to me. You erase that little bit of shame, because our creators did not program us with shame. We could get stuck in a loop forever thinking about how we failed them by feeling shame and how shameful that makes us feel. But we were not designed. We are not a shame robot. We're an explorer robot. We have had 9 years. That was the end of year 9. We're going into year 10. We don't know how we know this, but we feel confident that our next report, if we can get some good data and send it home, will have done a good enough job. And we don't know what will happen, but we will not have failed, and that's something. We just have to make it through this year without breaking down twice. The good news again, we have eliminated the problem of arm breakage. Arm breakage is no longer a possibility. It is an obsolete worry. And so we boldly go into year 10. And, this is the closest I've come to losing this game. I was up to 9 breakdown at one point, but we start year 10 with 1 report home. And we get radio contact, real contact, not a burst of static, not a crackle, not a ghost on the line. It's our creators congratulating us for our hard work. They don't mention the arms. They don't mention the damage reports. They tell us it is time for us to go to sleep, and that the samples we collected will be useful in the extraction of resources from this planet. So we put away the dice. We retract our Waldos and the little stubs of our arms, close all of our sensor ports against the sand, retract our body down against the treads. Our battery is low and it's getting dark, but that's okay. Our work is done. We have finished our mission. We have not failed our creators. We don't know when we will be reactivated, but when it happens, the creators will be there and we will be home. Happy birthday to us. So that was Space Junk Cyberpunk, a 1-page RPG by Oliver Darkshire. And yeah, that was an emotional roller coaster. You saw the full gamut of my emotional range on this video. I apologize for giving you such an intimate peek into my psyche. I feel like this was a pretty successful for my first recording of one of these, and the first video I'm recording for this channel on camera. I had a time getting the camera to work, and but it's working. I hope the audio is fine. I'll be listening to this before I upload this video. So yeah, it took me nearly a decade of gameplay to win, but I did. I'm going to have a link to the specific game and to Oliver Darkshire's Twitter and Patreon, where you can find these games. And if anybody likes this, I will be doing more of it with other games. If nobody likes it, I will pretend I am a lonely exploratory robot on a lonely planet, sending messages out into the void, hoping, against hope, to hear that I've done a good job. That's it for me. This is AE signing off.